Greetings, respected Bante. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our Awakening Friends weekly gathering. Let us begin by bringing our attention to a walking session today. With great respect, I would like to invite our Bante to guide us in this practice. Please.
Hello everyone. We'll start today's session with a mindful walking practice. And for this, feel free to turn on video and join more actively. And the simple idea is we find some space where we can walk comfortably. We walk back and forth in that space. And while walking, we try to feel the feet. You can feel the texture, temperature of the ground. You can feel which parts of your feet touching the ground. Maybe the heel touches first. That way you try to feel the feet while walking. And time to time you get carried away with various mind objects, thoughts, memories, future planning. They come. And then the surrounding sights, sounds, you start storytelling based on them. But among all these things, we repetitively turn our attention towards the feet and we repetitively feel the feet. So that's the idea. Now let's go join a walk-in session, and when you hear the bell sound, you can return back to your seats.
Welcome back. Let us move into our discussion part. For that, once again, I would like to respectfully invite our teacher to lead us in this discussion. And also, I would like to invite Tarindu to read the text for us today. Today we are reading from the Numerical Discourses of the Buddha, translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. We are referring to the fifth title under Book 1. The title is A Spike, and we are on the paragraph 48 on page 97. Tarindu, you can start reading once I shared, and you can go ahead.
Homage to the Blessed One, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one. Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other thing that changes so quickly as the mind. It is not easy to give a simile for how quickly the mind changes.
Yes. Now, this is the topic for today, and it's an interesting teaching that teaches about the nature of the mind. Now, we see many things in the outside world that is changing so rapidly, but according to Buddha, there is no other thing that changes as rapidly as the mind. The nature of the mind, how fast, how rapidly the mind is changing, and even difficult to give a simile. Nowadays, we have these supercomputers or AI algorithms. We think that they are much faster, but according to our understanding, the mind, you can't beat it with any other thing. How rapidly, how quickly the mind is changing, we don't even get to experience it. Yes, from the morning, let's say how many different mood swings we have had. Maybe you woke up with certain kind of a feeling, but later it turns into something else. Then again, some other feeling, some other thought, various surrounding things, right? So this way the mind is rapidly changing. We can't even imagine, we can't even experience how rapidly the mind is changing, right? But the problem with this is that we don't get to see this change. We feel like we are the same. We feel like we have been thinking the same matter over last few hours or so, right? But that rapid change, we don't get to see it properly. In a way, that's the function of the ignorance. The ignorance will tell you that you have been this way, or you have been like this, or you have been thinking this. The ignorance will tell you. But in reality, the mind is changing so quickly, and the ignorance covers it. It's like, even when you think back, you feel like you have been living for a long time. For decades, you have existed, right? That you can recall things. So you feel like there's this continuous functioning or continuous self in your life. But in reality, that's not how it is. This is the function of the ignorance. It tells us that you have been this way. You don't see that this disconnection between the moments. You don't see how rapidly the mind is changing, right? So that's how we work, that's how we talk. We feel like it's the same, but that's not how the mind works. For example, I remember a long time ago, a beginner, a yogi, he was doing mindful walking for the very first time. And in his report, he was reporting, I walked for 45 minutes, and during this whole time, my attention was only with the feet. That was his experience. He felt that he was with the feet all the time. But is that the reality? Probably that's the ignorance talking, right? Even in between two steps, we don't see. The ignorance doesn't allow us to see. We simply see, okay, the left leg, okay, the right leg, again the left leg. That's how we feel. But even in between these two steps, the mind is jumping to many other objects and coming, right? So the ignorance will tell us, no, your attention was with the steps. 45 minutes, you were with the steps. That's how you feel, that's how you experience. But in reality, it's a different story, right? So that nature of mind, how rapidly this mind is changing, we don't get to experience it. We don't get to see it. It's like, a rapid, ever-changing flux, ever-changing flux of things. How rapidly it is changing, we feel like it is a continuous stream. We don't see the disconnection between these objects. We just feel like it is continuous. There's no disconnection. But in reality, it's a rapid changing, ever-changing things of flux of things. And that's what we experience as self, or that's what we experience as existing. Right? So in this teaching, Buddha tries to explain this, and according to his profound wisdom, even you can't give a simile. That quickly the mind is changing, right? And when we think about this teaching, I recall another teaching which is somewhat similar to this. In that teaching, the Buddha is comparing the body and mind. In that teaching, in a way, Buddha says that it's okay to call this body self. You know why? Because it represents you. In a way, you go in front of a mirror, you get to see the same body at least for like few years. It is not changing so rapidly. Every day you go in front of the mirror, you see your reflection, you see the same body, and only like, after a while, you get to see, okay, some gray hair has appeared, right? Some gray hair has appeared. Maybe after a few years, you feel like it has happened. Yes, so the body represents us. Body stays more or less the same in short term. So in that teaching, Buddha says in a way, it's okay to call this body self, because it represents you, and it stays the same at least for like few years. You don't get to see rapid changes in that body. So in a way, it is justified calling this body self, right? Then he goes on to tell that the mind, it is changing so rapidly. There's no other thing that changes so quickly as the mind. So you shouldn't call this mind the self, or you shouldn't identify yourself as the mind, because the mind, one moment it is this, next moment it's something else, right? So it is justified calling your body self, but it's not worth telling this mind self or calling this mind self, right? So that's the idea. Even the body, I'm sure you know how rapidly the body is changing, right? Every 7 years we get a fresh body. All the cells in the body replaced within 7 years. right? So that rapidly the body is changing, but still it appears somewhat same for like few years, right? That this mass of cells, it appears same in short term, right? So it's worth calling it self because, you have pictures of yourself, you have your childhood pictures, right? You go through them, you call them, okay, this is my childhood, this is when I was in school. That way you show these things. You can see some resemblance in these photos, pictures, right? The mind, that's not the case. The mind is so rapidly changing. One moment it is something, next moment it is something else. That rapidly the mind is changing. So the Buddha's idea is that it's justified calling this body self, but it's not worth it to call this mind self. One moment you are sad, next moment you are happy, right? Who are you? Who is the person you are? One moment you get certain kind of thoughts. Next moment you get totally different thoughts. Which thoughts represent you, right? So we have these rapid mood changes within us. Sometimes, let's say with a family member, you get angry. Next moment you feel sad, or maybe you feel uh, like, compassionate towards them. You feel that you did some bad thing. Again, once again, if they respond in a certain manner, then once again you respond with some other emotion, right? So this way, the mind is ever changing. It is changing so rapidly, we don't even get to see how rapidly it is changing. That's the issue, right? Even some people, they go into meditation, they simply close their eyes for like 5-10 minutes and they tell, okay, I see the nature of the mind, right? That's good for, like, playing games. But in reality, we are not really experiencing how rapidly the mind is changing. We just see the surface of it. We just see what ignorance tell us. That's all what we see. We don't see how these different mind objects are coming to our mind. We don't see this ever-changing flux, right? So that type of a nature is there in this mind. And like few days ago, I came across this very insightful quote, one of the Zen quotes, and it says, though many people drink tea, if you don't know the way of tea, the tea will drink you up. That's what it says, right? So we drink tea. It's something that we consume, of course. But it says if you don't know the way of tea, then the tea will drink you up. What does it mean? How can tea drink us up? Right? So let's take an iPhone. You get a new iPhone, right? It's exciting. It's something that you can use. So you start like that. You start using the iPhone. You start consuming it. That's how it starts, right? But let's say you continue for some time, few months, few years, then gradually it becomes an addiction. You spend probably like 6-7 hours on this iPhone every day, playing games, browsing social media, all those things. So initially you were using the iPhone or you were consuming it, right? But gradually the iPhone starts consuming you. That's how it evolves. Let's say even our habits or addictions, it started as something fun. I wanted to try this. So you go ahead and try that. Yes, it's exciting, it's fun, it's a one-off thing. That's how you start it. But gradually, what happens is that it becomes stronger and stronger. You know you're doing something wrong, you know it's bad for you, but still you keep telling that probably I'll stop tomorrow. Today I'll consume, today I'll use this, today I'm tired, so it is excused, right? So that way, gradually, an addiction is formed. And initially it was exciting, fun. You were trying it, you were consuming it, but gradually the addiction starts consuming you. Right? So this is the nature of things. So it says if you don't know the way of tea, the tea will drink you up. If you know the way of if you don't know the way of life, the life will drink you up. Yes, the way of tea is equal to the way of life. What is the way of tea? Now in Japanese tea meditation, they prepare green tea and they drink it, probably on their own. And the whole idea is simply to pay extra attention to each and every small step. Let's say the tea preparation, each and every movement, you do it with extra attention. You put the tea dust into the bowl, knowing each and every step. You put hot water, knowing each and every step. You take the spoon and mix it, knowing each and every step. That way, these simple steps are done with extra attention, and that's what they call tea meditation. Not only preparation, but even the drinking. Right? So that's the way of tea, according to that tea meditation practice. What is way of life? We try to approach this life, each and every step, with extra attention. We try to approach it. Right? Simply mindfulness. These are repetitive things. Most of them, they happen as, in a compulsive manner. Most of them, they happen in that autopilot mode. But we try to slow it down and we try to pay extra attention to each and every step. That's the whole idea. Let's say brushing your teeth, sometimes when you take your prominent hand, the brushing happens automatically. You don't get to observe it. You just think about some family matter and the brushing is done. Right? But as mindful practitioners, we can use certain tools like, you use the non-prominent hand to brush. And when that happens, each and every movement, you have to make it consciously. Because the other hand is not used to brushing. Function is not there. Right? So that way, we try to slow them down a bit and we try to do these activities consciously or do these actions consciously. So that's the practice of mindfulness. That's the way of life, according to a meditator. And I remember one of the Zen stories that a Zen master, a guru, in front of a crowd, he quickly, scratched his head. Then again, in a slow motion manner, he did the same movement once again. Then the crowd, somebody was asking, Bante, why did you do it twice? Then the master says, the first time I was careless. The second time I did it with attention, with mindfulness. Right? So you have to train yourself. It'll just happen. It'll just happen like, like autopilot mode. Do you see how many movements we are making in this body each and every moment? Let's say you are seated in a crowd. When you look at that crowd from a distance, you can see how many times the body moves. How many unnecessary movements are there in this body? Sometimes, looking sideways, sometimes adjusting your seat, sometimes moving hands or legs, right? So this way, all the time, this body is in motion. Most of these things are compulsive kind of motions. You don't really need to do it, but in a compulsive manner, it happens, right? So that way, we try to pay attention to these small actions and we try to do them or perform them consciously. That's the idea. And that way, if you approach, then it's the way to understand the nature of this mind. This is the whole ignorance, it's hidden under these things, these compulsive movements, these compulsive thoughts, these compulsive words, right? So you have to pay attention and do them. That's the idea. That's the whole practice. And when you do that, when you turn your attention towards these things, you get to see how rapidly the mind is changing in a bit. I remember one person who was here, old gentleman. He was probably like, here for like a week. And in his report, the first few days he was unsuccessful. Then he said, Bante, I'll go and come. Right? When people tell that, what's the reason? Because their practice is not working and their minds are all over the place. But I told him, you came probably like 200 kilometers far to this place, 3 buses. So it's not worth it. All the traveling, what you have spent, it's not worth it. Right? So you have to stay for a longer period and go. Then he agreed and somehow continued his practice. And towards the end of his stay, he was saying, I can see my mind is jumping to like 100 objects when I meditate. It is so rapid, I don't know what is happening. I feel like my mind is broken, something like that, right? So this person experiences it as a side effect of meditation. Because of meditation, this started or this happened. No, the reality is that it has been there for a long time, but you didn't see. You didn't see because of your ignorance. And when you develop a certain level of mindfulness, you get to see how rapidly the mind is changing. How many objects come each and every moment. You get overwhelmed. You feel like your mind is broken. That many objects are there, right? And you don't get to see this all the time. For a shorter period, probably like few minutes, few seconds, you get to see this nature. Then once again, the normal experience continues. Right? So those glimpses that we get, those are glimpses into the reality or glitch in the matrix. Right? In meditation, we can see such glimpses. We feel hundreds and hundreds of thoughts are coming so rapidly. It feels like, my mind is broken. I might have to go meet a doctor, right? That type of a experience it is. But it won't last for a long time. It'll last only for a short period. And you get to see how the nature of the mind. And many people, they even go to the doctors and say, I started this meditation and something is wrong with me, right? Unfortunately, what to do? And the doctor will prescribe you something and everything is covered. You are sleepy, you are sleeping well, and you are back to your usual ways of ignorance. I remember one person who came here. He was saying, Bante, I am taking some medicine for some mental health issues, and the doctor suggested that I shouldn't do any deep meditation. That was doctor's suggestion. So I told him, no, don't worry, we are not doing any deep meditation. We are simply here and now, right? That's the most simple thing you can experience in the moment. You are doing something. You are brushing your teeth. You are walking. You are sitting. You are eating your meals. That's all we do. We don't go beyond that. We don't try to create, additional complications, right? So anyway, in your practice, sometimes you get to see these glimpses, glitch in the metrics, and that doesn't come as a happy experience. But those experiences are telling us the nature of this mind, the true nature of this mind, right? It's a struggle between these senses, the sense doors, the six sense doors, right? In meditation, sometimes when you go and sit, when you close your eyes, you get to feel how many surrounding sounds are there. Even yesterday, somebody was telling their experience. I asked, what did you experience during the sitting? Then he was saying, Bhante, a lot of beautiful songs are there from the birds. Many, many birds are there. So maybe for the first time, he's noticing the birds. The birds, they have been there for a long time. But only now, this person is hearing the birds' songs. Right? So probably a whole new world you get exposed to, a whole new sound world, right? When you get a moment, simply, go to nature. I don't know whether it's possible in this winter, but anyway, go to nature and simply close your eyes and sit for a while. Listen to the surrounding sounds. Do you see how many sounds are there in every moment? Even now, I can hear so many birds in the background. It's early morning, they are active, they are singing. Right? So that way, simply the sounds only will overwhelm you. You can see each and every moment I am hearing hundreds and hundreds of sounds. Right? That's only one sense door. Then what happens when you open your eyes? Then that's the most prominent sense door. Right? Most people in their sitting meditation, they start complaining about surrounding noises, because as long as the eyes are open, they don't get to see that part, because the eyes grab hold of our attention. That's the prominent sense door for us, right? Even yesterday, there was this person who went blind, probably like, in the middle of life. She was having 3 children and went blind due to some sickness, probably like 10 years ago. And there was this other monk who was nearby, and he was saying, Bhante, it's okay. She probably it's easier for her with the blindness. You don't get to see all the distractions, right? That way the other person was telling. But I told you, try that for a day. You keep your eyes closed and survive for a day, then come and give the feedback, right? Without your eyes, can you imagine a life? Can you imagine surviving for a day? Can you imagine getting up from there and going to the bathroom, right? So it's unbelievable how dependent we are on our eyes, right? And going blind with 3 children. I don't know how that person has survived, right? So these are prominent sensors, eyes, many sights. It's like a fabric of sights. We don't even get to see the difference between a couple of sights, right? You just see the fabric. Then the sounds are there. Then when you sit in meditation, you get to see how many bodily sensations come. You close your eyes, you sit, and you feel like you are still experiencing your whole body, right? But in reality, it's a mental image that we create out of these little bodily sensations. For example, let's say your head. If you close your eyes and simply pay attention to your head, you don't feel a head. You feel certain sensations here and there. And adding them together, you create this perception of head, right? That's the whole way. When the eyes are closed, you can't verify that the body is there. Some people will poke their head and say, okay, it's here. Yes, of course. But what do you experience? You feel some touch sensation at your fingertips and some touch sensation over there, right? That's what you call a head, right? There's this Zen book. The title of it says, "You have no head," right? And it feels like, silly kind of a statement. But in reality, how do you verify that you have a head, right? You go in front of a mirror, you say, okay, this is my head. Of course, but it's a head in the mirror. So they are arguing what's in the center. What's in the center of this observer? You can't know. You don't know, right? You are looking outside from a center when you observe your surrounding, but you don't get to see what's in the center, right? Probably the mirror is a meter away, and a meter away, of course, you can see a head. But what's in the center, right? So they are encouraging us to turn our attention towards the observer who is within us, right? So that way, the meditation will show you a glimpse of how these 6 sense doors are working. I mentioned earlier about the mind, hundreds and hundreds of thoughts are coming to the mind. Sometimes you get to experience that in your meditation, right? So this way, the 6 senses, they have many thousands of objects each moment. And all of them, they are in a struggle to grab our attention or to grab mind's attention. It's a probability game. You get thousands and thousands of sounds and you'll hold a single, you catch a certain sound which is attractive to you. The rest is forgotten. You get hundreds and hundreds of thoughts thrown at you, and you get caught in a single thought that's in your liking, right? The rest is forgotten. You get so many thousands and thousands of bodily sensations in your body, and once in a while, a toothache will catch your attention. All right, so this way, all these senses, they are in a struggle to win the mind's attention. That's how these sensors work. It's a probability game. You lose with probability, right? It doesn't matter. You don't get caught in a single object. Thousands and thousands of more objects will be thrown at you. And eventually you'll get caught in one, right? So that's how we function. That's how we live this life. So this rapid nature of mind we don't see. We only see the objects that we are getting caught in. We don't see the background. We don't see the fabric of this. We don't see how many objects are simply forgotten. We only see the objects that we get entangled with. Right? So that's why it says these mind objects, every object is fighting to be the master. And thus begins your slavery. Right? Each and every object, they are fighting to be the master of the mind. The true master is really the mind, the reflective nature, the ability to experience these things. Right? It's like a screen where the pictures appear. Nobody pays attention to the screen. Many people go and watch the movie. Right? The movie is the sense objects. The movie grabs our attention. But you have to understand there's a screen, and that screen will function this movie. Right? So the screen is the mind. That's the true master. But unfortunately, our attention goes to these objects, and they fight for attention. They fight to become the master, and thus begins your slavery. The true master is the screen, or true master is the mind, not the mind objects. But whatever we are experiencing, we are simply experiencing mind objects. What else do you identify as self? What else do you identify as you? Right? Can you tell one other thing that you identified today as you other than mind objects? Whatever you identified as you today, they were mind objects, not the mind. Maybe you recall certain emotions today, certain incidents, and how you felt about them. Those are mind objects. Maybe you remember seeing a sight. Maybe you remember talking to somebody. Maybe you remember eating some snack. So everything you have experienced today, it's not the mind. It's the mind objects. Everything you have identified as you today, it's not the mind. It's the mind objects. Right? And they become the master. That's why you say, I am depressed. I have these troubles in my life. All of them, they are simply mind objects. But do you feel like it? Do you feel that they are simply mind objects? No, you feel like they are the status that you are in. You feel like those thoughts are controlling me. Those emotions are controlling me. So they become the master of the mind. So that's why they say that every mind object, they try to be the master of this mind, and thus begins your slavery. You become a slave to those mind objects. Right? So that's the idea for today. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you so much, Bante, for your valuable and insightful teaching. You always bring Buddha's wisdom to us in a very simple manner. We all appreciate it so much. Much merits to you. And thank you, Darindu, for bringing the text into life. Now that we have come to the end of our discourse discussion, I would like to open the space for any questions or closing thoughts. Please take this opportunity to share your practice or experience, or if you have any questions in your mind. Okay. You can raise your Zoom hand, so I can give you an opportunity to unmute. I believe you can unmute
Pani, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, Auntie. Think this is Radhika, Auntie. Auntie, we
So,
can hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, dear Dhamma friends, most of the young ones know me as Auntie. My name is Radhika, and Kalpani asked me to share something with you. And I will begin by putting it in context why I agreed. She felt it will help you. But anyway, let's see. So, I slipped on water on a tile floor, injured my knee, and it required surgery. As it was out of the country, I was brought to Vancouver General Hospital emergency on January 20th, midnight, in an air ambulance. I had surgery on the 22nd. I'm stable and much better now. I'm going to talk about the quotation that the Buddha had, the quotation 49 in what Bhante used. The Buddha said, and using this context, I'm going to tell how I tried to do what the Buddha was talking about in that quotation 49. There, the Buddha says, luminous is this mind because adventitious defilements defile the mind. And then he says, luminous is this mind because adventitious defilements free the mind. How does defilements defile the mind and free the mind? And what did the Buddha mean by adventitious? Well, the dictionary says that adventitious is something that you didn't ask for, something that just came. Well, with what happened to me, I can tell you that many defilements came into my mind. And what I'm going to share with you today for a little while, and I hope I don't go over too much, just cut me off and tell me, Kalpani, if I do, is how I tried to use these defilements to free my mind instead of defiling my mind. I don't want anyone to think that it was easy. When something like this happens outside your country and you had to be transported in an air ambulance, there are many, many emotions that go through your mind. Fear, anxiety, anger, pain, mental anguish, physical anguish, even lamentation. So, I have taken the negative side, and I'm going to try and tell you how I tried to make these negative things which were thrust upon me, unasked for, into freeing my mind or into positive things so that my mind was at peace and calm. I used every resource that I had learned in the Dhamma. I used Anapanasati meditation, or in English, breathing awareness meditation. I also use elements meditation, or in Pali, Dhatu Manasikara. I use metta, and those of you from Winnipeg know that CD that I have distributed, which I got from Malaysia. It's a beautiful metta, rendering of metta in Pali and English. And I use Parita or Pirit, the Mahapirita. I used it at different times depending on my needs. The first thing that I realized is that I had to have a very positive attitude. Something has happened. It cannot be changed. I wasn't going to start blaming people, looking for reasons, saying, poor me. Instead, I was going to free the mind anytime any of these thoughts came into my mind. I was grateful that I had fallen and only hurt my knee, injured my knee. I had planned to go horse riding. I could have been thrown off the horse and died, or hit my head and had a concussion. Those negative thoughts disappeared, and gratitude came that it was so minor in relative terms. I could have drowned in the ocean when I went snorkeling. So many things could have happened because I wasn't in my home country. Also, I was extremely grateful to all the healthcare professionals, everybody who helped me. I fell between the reception and the agents, the travel agents, right in the open because there was some water with no sign that the floor was wet. But it was a beach hotel. People walked around in their bathing suit. So what? Both parties, the reception and the agents, came to me immediately. A doctor and a nurse was brought, an ambulance was brought, ice was placed, I was taken to an international clinic, from there to emergency, and there to the regional hospital by ambulance. I was grateful.
Auntie,
Yes.
since it's a time,
Yes.
I would like to ask you to share how, I know you've been practicing mindfulness meditation for a long time now. How do you think it helped in your
Okay, if I
condition,
take
in this
only
situation?
mindfulness meditation, how it helped is that when I was mindful, these thoughts were not coming into my mind. But under these circumstances, sometimes in addition to my mindfulness, I had to use other resources also. And getting that attitude made it easier for me to practice the mindfulness when there was no pain. I used mindfulness and anapanasati, as I said, but when there was excruciating pain and there was 3 incidents, 2 physical, 1 mental, I couldn't. But right through the rest of it, till the surgery on the 22nd and today, I didn't have pain and I was stable because of mindfulness, because of anapanasati, and because of elements meditation. I listened to Bana. Those 3 helped me. How did it help me? By changing those defilements and not letting them defile my mind, bringing the mind instead to calm and a more positive experience of gratitude, loving kindness, I could say emptiness, a feeling of equanimity. That's how it helped me. But my attitude was the one that helped it. I couldn't do it under 3 circumstances of excruciating pain, 2 physical, 1 mental. I had to go into drugs. So I'd like to ask Bhante how great arahants like Maha Kassapa and the Buddha use the Bojjhanga to help change this mind state, ever-changing mind state, when there is excruciating pain, because I could not. In these 10, 12 days, there were 3 times I had to take strong medication. The rest of the time, I managed with just Tylenol, 2 tablets of Tylenol. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I think Bhante wouldn't mind answering that question.
Yes, so we are glad to hear that you have recovered and you are feeling much better.
Thank you.
Now, these type of experiences, it allows us to see how the true reality of the mind. Even today's topic, when you are in excruciating pain, you can see how many objects, how many sensations come to your mind and how rapidly those things are changing. So we feel or we experience that we are not up to that level, up to Arahant's level, up to Buddha's level, and we are weak. That's okay. That's the whole idea. We have a long way to go. We have a long practice ahead of us. So these type of experiences will tell us how difficult the life can get and how traumatic the mind can become. And that'll help us to practice. That'll encourage us to practice. Not when you are in these type of extreme conditions, but as Radhika mentioned before, for many years you have to train yourself. Because one day all of us will have to go through such experiences. There's no guarantee that you are safe. There's no guarantee that you are protected, right? So the preparation beforehand is the most important thing. We try to prepare ourselves when we are healthy. We try to prepare ourselves when we are not experiencing pain in our body. We try to prepare ourselves when we are young. Gradually, when these things come, we get to see how this mind is, how difficult such situations are, right? So it's eye-opening experience, not only for you, even for the others who have been here, right? So we know that we are weak. We know that we are not up to those levels, but still we have a long way to go, and we can improve ourselves and become better at it. And that's the whole idea of the path. And I remember one person who had a similar incident. After coming from that incident, that person had like 3 realizations. The first one was, Bhante, the dying is not easy. Right? That was the first one. Right? We talk about dying, we say, okay, I'll die mindfully. You imagine it to be something like, that scene from Titanic, but in reality, it's not the case. It's not how it works, right? So you have to improve yourself. We have to improve ourselves and be more prepared for what's to come. That's the whole idea of the practice. That's why we are here, gathered every week. Thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you, Bhante. Thero and Saranai.
Thero and Saranai.
Now that we have come to the end of our session for this week, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my respected gratitude to our teacher for his presence and for his practice and for his sharing his wisdom with us. And also, thank you very much for all of you, for your presence, for your practice, and for your kind participation. We will meet again next week, the same time. Until then, take care.